VR has always quite frankly amazed me, and with the new edition of Blade and Sorcery, it's just a perfect example of a VR masterpiece. Blade and Sorcery has always been the perfect VR game to me, and today I'm here to tell you why. So in today's video, we will be talking about why Blade and Sorcery is the perfect VR game. Blade and Sorcery recently had their new U11 update. They dubbed it the Home Update, and honestly, this update was the best in my opinion. It included magic updates, AI enhancements, a graphics overhaul, a new clothing system, and most importantly, a new home environment. The magic updates, though, were honestly the most exciting for me. Lightning before U11 was like stabbing your enemy with a fucking toothpick, and now lightning feels really powerful, especially with the merge. Lightning has been completely revamped down to the VFX, and I must say, the lightning merge is so fun to use. Gravity got two completely new mechanics, the gravity glide and the gravity jump. The gravity glide essentially turns you into Iron Man. It lets you glide around wherever you please, and the VFX literally looks amazing. The other mechanic was dubbed the gravity jump. It allows you to boost yourself up into the air by casting gravity towards the ground. These two mechanics combined essentially make you Iron Man. Moving on to the fire revamp, they redid the VFX and added one new mechanic to it. The way the U11 fire looks now is just amazing. When I'm in VR, I swear I can feel the heat radiating off of it. The fire structure looks so much better. You can literally see smoke, heat waves, and it's just amazing. Moving on to the new mechanic they added to it, it allows you to merge the fire into a giant meteor that whirls out of control. The cool thing about this meteor is that you can jump with it, just like gravity if you cast it towards the ground. The VFX for Fire Merge looks great, and honestly I can't wait for future enhancements. Moving on to AI enhancements, they completely revamped all of the animations for the enemies in-game. The entire point of this was to get the enemy more reliant on parrying rather than luck, and to look as natural as possible. The fights with enemies are now much more challenging and fun, allowing you to fully use your skill on the enemies without them dying in 0.0001 seconds. Moving on to the new graphics overhaul, the game looks frickin' amazing. Everything now has a layer of depth to it, and it's even more immersive than it already was. I'm pretty sure they redid the lighting system and they completely changed the way the water looks. They even added water physics. They added a completely new mercenary outfit to the enemies, and I gotta say it's my favorite. The entire feel of the game feels different now, and I honestly think this game has great potential. For our penultimate subject, this brings us to the new clothing system. It can be finicky at times and super laggy, but for now I really like it. It opens up potential for custom armor, and it's so fantastic already on the Nexus. Moving on to our final subject, this brings us to our new player home. And holy crap did they outdo themselves on this one. The new player home quite frankly astonished me. I found myself sinking hours into the literal player home. The player home! They now allow you to go outside and explore the island where the only person on it is you. Kinda like a deserted wasteland, but honestly, it gives you a sense of tranquility and peace. The new player home includes a fancy new beach area, a spooky cave area, and a flat kinda Minecraft Plains area. Seeing as how the new player home is an island, you're probably wondering, is there water around said island? And yes, there is. They even added swimming and completely new water physics. Before U11 it was just a shader, but now it's like its completely own environment. And this opens up even more potential for boats and just water equipment in general. For the next section, I'm going to let my friend Caden ramble about how Blade and Sorcery is a fantastic game and it has great potential. As always, his channel's link is in the description, so make sure to go subscribe. But without further ado, take it away, Caden.
Hey, about multiplayer. Now, what some people have heard about multiplayer is that it will come out in a later update. I personally assume that it will not be coming out anytime soon for, as I read, technical reasons. I don't blame them because Blade and Sorcery is coded in C# and it's a very difficult language to learn. In both mine and Eric's opinion, we both agree an official multiplayer mode would be extremely fun, especially with mods. With mods, just adding Marvel weapons or really stupid spells to fight with would be completely hilarious. Just imagine throwing people up in the air or zapping them to death. One mod I would instantly use would be a Spider-Man mod, so we're just swinging around killing each other. Another thing to do with it would be play hide and seek, and with Spider-Man mod, just being able to swing anywhere you wouldn't be able to reach without it. Another cool thing to do is if there were waves built for it to make them harder or easier, to do them together also, obviously. Now, the top 3 mods that I would use in multiplayer would be Mystic Hands. Mystic Hands is my first choice because, like, if you can get a big enough map and you know how to use the Mystic Hands, you can act as a King Kong, but the size of a human. Number 2, the Outer Rim. Yes, I know it's controversial of a mod, but I feel like it would be fun to have a lightsaber duel on Tatooine or at the clone facility. 3, Scale. If it would work, just imagine making your friends tiny and then squishing them with your foot, or making a sword big and squishing them with that. But anyways, for now, you have to use mods to get a multiplayer game. And trust me, they aren't the best.
The vanilla version of Blade and Sorcery was always just fantastic, but Blade and Sorcery is basically a physics playground. Kind of like Bonerix, but a little less finicky, and it makes you feel more like a god. This makes Blade and Sorcery a perfect foundation for downloadable content. And this brings us to the expansion of mods. Blade and Sorcery mods enhance this experience so much, and I literally can't imagine playing the game without them anymore. The fact that I can't even play this game without mods just is astonishing to me, because mods bring this game alive. Playing vanilla is like eating a chip with no salt, but playing with mods is like eating chips with salsa. There are so many mods on the Nexus for Blade and Sorcery, and they honestly feel like they could be in the vanilla game. Like, there's the Outer Rim, there's Honorless by Wooly. The fact that people can be creative and create their own content on a game that I personally love, quite frankly, amazes me. Like, there is just endless and endless mods on the Nexus. Some are absolutely awful, where others feel like they were brought down from heaven. Some of the mods you can find feel like they could be in the vanilla game, like I mentioned earlier, like Honorless or the freaking Outer Rim. It's so well flushed out. It feels like it could be in the original game. There are countless great mods that I can spend days listing, but instead I made a video on it, which is my first video on this channel. And mods are just getting better. As I mentioned in the U11 section, we now have an entire clothing system which allows for custom armor, helmets, and even custom enemies. I'm hoping that future features allow for further mod potential as updates arise, cause as we've already seen, more features from these updates allow us to build off of them and build custom mods for them. Personally, I really hope the community figures out how to get an actual multiplayer mod working, because the 2 ones we have now are just not good. I'm sorry, but they're like decent at best. The Blade and Sorcery modding community is amazing, and I honestly can't wait for what's in store. Mods enhance the Blade and Sorcery experience tenfold, and I can't wait for future modding potential to arise. Anyways, let's move on to our next section. The Blade and Sorcery community has always been great, from people sharing funny moments of their own in-game experiences, to the modding community and people unveiling new awesome modding features. The Blade and Sorcery community is growing at an alarming rate, and I believe that if we consistently keep on getting updates with more features and potential, then this game will become a masterpiece. Although I believe that we can only achieve this with the help of the community. The Blade and Sorcery community is one of the best out there. They never really had any major problems with the game. Sometimes you see the community ruin a game, and sometimes you can see the community make a game perfect. Blade and Sorcery is a perfect example of the community making the game greater. Blade and Sorcery is one of the most well-known VR games out there. With YouTubers like Downloadable Content and Awakened Toast making constant content on the game, the community will grow even faster. The community has helped so much even with the U11 update. The entire process of U11 started with Warp Frog Studios releasing a series of betas of all the new features they wanted to put into the game. They then had the community fill out forums with all the bugs they had first-hand experience with. Throughout this process, the game went through 4 U11 betas, with each growing more playable and less buggy. The community to Blade and Sorcery is like a warm blanket. Warp Frog Studios made something great, and the community helped to amplify that. Overall, I think the Blade and Sorcery community is amazing. Anyways, let's move on to our next section. Blade and Sorcery puts itself out there as a VR physics-based fantasy sword fighting game. It accurately emulates sword physics and also just physics overall. The gameplay of Blade and Sorcery is satisfying, especially with audio and the new graphics overhaul. Blade and Sorcery is an arcadey-style, arena-based sandbox fighting game, with the main objective of killing your enemies brutally and trying to survive throughout the process. Really, the entire reason you'd want to play Blade and Sorcery is if you had a bad day and want to satisfy your bloodshed. Although there isn't really lore or a story behind Blade and Sorcery, the game is still extremely fun. The game has a wide variation of armor, weapons, and defensive shields to choose from. There are tons of playstyles to choose from in Blade and Sorcery. You could go unarmed, sword and board. You could be a mage and use lightning, fire, and gravity to gain the advantage over your enemies. Or you could be a sneaky archer lurking in the shadows. I personally like going on a rampage with spells and a dagger, but the great thing about this game is that it basically lets you do anything. Want to be Thor and Wolverine at the same time? Well, now you can in Blade and Sorcery. Want to be Zeus and electrocute your foes? Well, now you can. There are endless possibilities in Blade and Sorcery, and I can't wait for future updates to expand on the main gameplay elements of the game. Overall, the gameplay of Blade and Sorcery is what brings this game alive. Comparing Blade and Sorcery to something like Gorn or a different fighting game is extremely difficult because mechanics vary from game to game. I guarantee most VR fighting games out there are awesome, but I feel like Blade and Sorcery takes the crown. Comparing Blade and Sorcery to a game like Gorn, really, you can't really do that because Gorn doesn't really depend on physics, while Blade and Sorcery heavily depends on physics. Both games AI act differently and they both have their own fighting style, so they're really uncomparable. Anyways, let's move on to our next section.
I'm back, but now with maps. The current maps in Blade and Sorcery are perfectly fine. I play those mostly because I feel like normal wizardry PvE game. One is Citadel. Citadel is my personal favorite map because of how full it is with detail and places to explore. Like, my first time playing it, it was a blast, and I was just climbing around, doing my own thing, having fun. So if you're looking at a map to just chill or find spots you normally wouldn't look for, I would suggest Citadel. 2, Market. Market, in my opinion, is just an insanely good map. It used to be my favorite map until I played Citadel. Market just has a lot of detail in it, like it has a well, but the area on it can act as a mini arena. If you fall in the well, there's a rope to get out, and you can also throw the dead NPCs in there as well. There's a ledge that wizards, witches, and archers normally spawn on because they're ranged enemies. You can use the Mystic Hands mod to leave the map and climb on the mountains, like I did in one of my live streams. I don't know if there's a barrier or not because I did it in U10. But altogether, Market is just a great all-around map. 3, Arena. Arena is a classic arena map. If you were to watch a medieval movie, this looks extremely similar with bleachers, pillars, and a wooden spiked wall you can throw enemies onto to kill them. It's fun when you do a hard wave or an endless wave because you can feel like you're in medieval times. And with the NPC spawner mod, you can summon NPCs into the stands to act as spectators. So yeah, Arena is a very good map for fighting NPCs like in medieval times. 4, Ruins. Ruins, in my opinion, isn't really a fun map, but the detail of the map is great. Has broken stone fences and just gives you vibes like you're in an abandoned place or in ruins. If you play Ruins, it's not the worst choice, but I would suggest trying the other maps. And last one, Canyon. I myself personally have not played Canyon, but I have watched videos where people have played in it, and it looked like a really good map.
The future of Blade and Sorcery sounds very promising, seeing as how Warpfrog Studios posted a roadmap on Steam detailing future updates and events of the game. The roadmap listed all new updates from U12 to beyond the full release of Blade and Sorcery. U12 sounds like it's going to be great, with its prime feature being the new Crystal Hunt game mode that will be introduced in 2023. After U12, Blade and Sorcery is planned to be fully released. In the full release, Warpfrog hopes to release a new spell along with it. They call it Soul. Now, I don't know the exact details of the spell, but honestly, it sounds badass. Beyond the full release of Blade and Sorcery, the devs promise to keep on putting out constant updates to keep the game in tune with the current state of VR. They stated in the roadmap that beyond version 1.0, they wanted to add, and I quote, major DLC extensions, in which me and Kaden both hope is co-op multiplayer. Well, I think we have come to a conclusion that Blade and Sorcery is one of the best VR games out there. From the fantastic gameplay elements to the promising new updates coming, Blade and Sorcery is the perfect VR game.